say, no, they don't make it, like, why? You know, cut off your nose to spite your face.
Right.
It should be more inclusive instead of.
We just have to set out what the expectation is.
Yeah.
You're invited, but this is the expectation. If you can't do it, then come turn it down.
Good afternoon. It is 6 o'clock. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is October the 17th of 2019. First item we have is a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Erasmo Guerrero,
Present.
Jose Tellez,
Present.
Carlos Flores.
He's present.
Thank you. George Beckelheimer,
Present.
Raul Ugalde,
Present.
Johnny Narvaez, Abraham Lugo, present. Luis Villarreal, Jorge Dominguez. Present. For the record, Mr. Chairman, you do have quorum.
Make a
Thank you.
motion to excuse Mr.
Commissioner
Villarreal.
Narvaez is running a few minutes late. He'll be here in a few minutes. All right, and Commissioner Villarreal has to be excused. He has a conflict in his schedule today. So can we have a motion to excuse him?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item that we have is everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next item we have is the consideration of the approval of the minutes of September the 19th and of October the 3rd. I know we have the minutes of October the 3rd here before us, right?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. We have the ones for October 3rd at this time.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And motion carries. Citizens' comments?
Not at the moment.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I should have asked you before the meeting, but on citizen comments, this is when citizens would speak, and then not again when there's an agenda item.
Well, it depends. If they sign up specifically for an agenda item, we would recognize them under the agenda item as opposed to here. This is if somebody wants to address a commission and voice their opinion on something
Okay.
that's not really on the
Not
agenda.
necessarily, very good, thank you.
All right. Okay, the next item that we have is public hearings. All right, so the first thing that we have is, let's see here. Item 6A, amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning lot 28 and 29, block 3, Lomas del Sur subdivision, unit 13 located at 2207 and 2819 Lomas del Sur Boulevard from B1 to B4 Highway Commercial. The proposed use of mini storage facility and the property is currently vacant. The staff recommendation is to support the proposed zone change. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the change, in favor?
Good evening, I'm Daniel Gomez, on behalf of the owner. We're proposing we're going to go with the staff. And I would like a few minutes just to explain what we're trying to do in order to get your concurrence.
Sure.
May I use the... We're requesting a zone change because we're trying to build a mini storage facility. And we need the B4 zone in order to do this type of construction. The reason why we did it, and we haven't gone through the special use permit, because for the special use permit, we need, on the special use permit, there's a restriction that the plans, they need to be approved. Any change that we do, any change or recommendation done by the city we'll need to resubmit once again on the special use permit. And we already have a loan approved on the bank, and I have a copy of that, plus a letter from the owner that I can provide you. And we have partial plans. We're almost complete. We're not 100%, but we're planning to submit the plans as soon as we get the zone change approved. May I provide you a copy of it?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I just ask staff something while,
Yes, go right ahead.
Mr. Steidman, why is it that, I know Mr. Gomez is going to explain right now, or bring support to why it needs to go B4 instead of SUP, but can you just say why wouldn't you be pushing for an SUP here?
Well, for the reason he stated, that if he were to make changes in this plan, come back, because, we're working through the construction process, have to change something, he might have to go back through an SUP. I don't think it's necessary. I think what he's planning to do with his own change fits in with the residential in that neighborhood, and being on the thoroughfare of the road. So, as staff, we decided to support this.
Well, we of course know that you would support the storage facilities, but just like other ones that we're going to see, where you say, no, B4, no way, because of, then you're providing a long list of types of businesses that could be tucked in the future. I'm just asking, why is there trust on this and not on the others?
This applicant is coming forward with the project rather than a zone change and a thought that they're going to do something. So here it's more concrete that this is what they're planning to do.
Okay.
I have a question for staff.
Yes, go right ahead.
I guess, have you considered the idea that the 3 lots adjacent to it on the block, as well as, which are B3s right now, and then the B1s that are on the next block over on Lomas del Sur, are going to probably come to this commission again within the next year or two, asking to get a B4, because we allowed this applicant to go from a B3 or B1 to a B4. So I get what you're saying, but has staff considered that? Are we ready to move or contemplate that all of these lots that are along Lomas del Sur are going to soon want to apply to a B4 as well?
I think that's something to examine. It's speculative, but we are currently in the process of looking at our zoning right now and would be allowing something like this that's conducive to the residential with the rezone process that we're actually going to talk about later today, or with the recode process. And so in this instance where this applicant is coming forward with something that fits in with the residential, that a lot of the people who will be using the storage facilities will be residences that are on smaller lots that have stuff they want to store. It works in the neighborhood and is not out of place. If somebody's coming forward with something that doesn't fit, then staff would look at that and suggest that that would not be appropriate. But we're in the process now of those definitions and how we break them down between the various B zone and the commercial zonings is changing. So we're trying our best to work with applicants that come, have a plan for what they're submitting, and seeing whether or not that fits the neighborhood and it fits with the long range, with the comprehensive plan. Having a mix of uses in neighborhoods rather than just being so separate. Here's residential way over here, and here's anything that's commercial over here.
All right.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. So, would it make sense, so what's the reasoning behind having storages in such a high intense zoning? Shouldn't it be, or would it make sense to do it
That's the point.
B3 or?
That's the point I was making, is that
Right.
we're reevaluating our zoning categories, and we want them to be more intuitive, because that a storage facility, that often storage facility is the biggest, maybe it was different 20, 30 years ago, but the biggest component of storage now is people with homes that just have too much stuff and they're in and out or they're moving. That fits in very much with a neighborhood where maybe previously it was something we thought of, put in an industrial area. That's where we have a lot of our self-storage. So
Because I see where Commissioner Tejeda is going, and we have gotten in the past other requests, and the reason sometimes is, well, right next door, there's a B3 zoning or a B4 zoning, why can't I have the same? And B4 allows for a hotel, right, compared to,
Or some,
right, so
there are
maybe,
some more intense uses, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to be looking at that. What we do, Rico Laredo, is have these categories make more sense, or have fewer categories, and have a way that it's more intuitive. And the ultimate goal, that what's guiding us is the comprehensive plan, where citizens gave us the feedback. We want to see more mix of uses. We don't want to have such separation of uses, and that's what's guiding us.
Okay. Commissioner Flores?
I had a question. Isn't that why it would make sense then in this instance to use the special use permit? Because there may be changes to the zoning categories and what is allowed in them. And if we give a B4 today, will the uses that are currently B4 be grandfathered in for future land use to that property? And that would address what Mr. Beckelheimer was concerned about?
No, they won't be grandfathered in. What will be grandfathered in is the current use of the site. So what they're doing, they'll have a legal non-conforming status if the zoning changes. And with what we're contemplating with changing several of the zones in the city, there will for a while, there may be several properties that already there's many in the city, as old as we are, that have a legal non-conforming status, where what they're doing is legal because they can continue doing it, but they're not conforming anymore with the current zoning. That doesn't mean what they were zoned, now they get to have all those zones, all the uses in what their current zone is forever. It doesn't work that way. It's just the current use. If the zoning changes, then if they ever want to change their current use, they'd have to conform with the new zone. That's been applied to that.
I'm not really sure that's true. I mean, I think like if you have a B4 and it allows you to do 10 things, and then 2 weeks from now, B4 only allows you to do 3 things, but you got the B4 when it allowed you to do 10, are you saying that that would not run with the property?
That would not. I'm 100% sure that's
correct.
not how legal non-conforming status works.
That's good.
They gotta stick with
I mean, it's happened already quite a few times here in this community when,
What's grandfathered in is your current use of the site and what you're currently doing. And even that can expire if you let it go for a certain amount of time as stated in the ordinance.
Is it, let's say the property owner wanted to do something different, but it's the same property owner, would they still be allowed to do the current uses in B4 even if they've changed, or would they then be non-conforming and have to reapply?
If what they're doing currently, if there's a new zone
Yeah.
where that use is no longer allowed, if they stop doing that use for a certain period, then they lose the ability to continue that use. But as long as they continue that same use, they don't stop that same use, they can continue indefinitely. They're grandfathered in. They have a legal non-conforming status. And they can even change ownership. They can sell the property, and somebody new can come in. As long as they continue that use without a break in the continuation of that, then they're fine. And we have many properties in the city that already fall in that category, and that's very common.
Thank you.
okay. All right. You,
Real quick, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gomez, the last time that we looked at this item, even though it's supported by staff, one of the main issues was what happens once we allow the B4 and the owner decides not to go with the project. See, now we have an area with a B4 that can turn into a lot of things. We can have bars there, we can have restaurants, we can have whatever is allowable under B4. And I believe that the last time that we were here, Mr. Chairman, one of the conditions that I wanted to bring into allowing the B4 is that this particular project be built there. And if it's not built there, then that it be canceled or that it be changed back to the original, because once we allow the B4, they can go out that door and they can say, we're not going to build this anymore. But if we condition it and they actually agree to that, then
I don't think we can conditional zoning.
No,
That's not legal. You can't condition
That's
zoning.
not something you could do.
No.
Now, what's guiding our recommendation here is trying to achieve a greater mix of uses as directed by the comp plan, and that this is something that's conducive for the neighborhood, and not using
Right.
the process of SUPs and CUPs for everything. If the commission feels they would feel more comfortable with a CUP or an SUP, or with an SUP in this situation, then you could deny the applicant, but you couldn't put conditions on rezone. But you could deny the applicant, and then he could come back and apply.
Let me just say one quick thing. Now, one thing that can happen is, following up Commissioner Dominguez, is that if you zone the property and then they don't go through with the intended use, the city could come back and ask for a rezone of that property.
Good.
Yes.
If this was something to
And, you know,
get something different,
yeah,
we could change the zoning in a meeting. And,
Yeah.
you know, their use isn't vested until they would submit permits.
Yeah, but by this point, that's a very small margin that that's gonna happen, like, this
I
is
mean,
what's gonna happen.
they've got a
They
lot-
already invested into
a lot
the
of
drawings,
money's already gone,
into
so, yeah.
the loan, I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen.
There's a lot of documents here that say that this is a project that's gonna
Yeah,
go
so
through, so.
that's.
I mean, yeah, it could fall out anyway, I mean, but at least from what we're being presented, the intent is to continue this project. There's already a lot of expenditure that's gone through, so. All right, this is a public hearing. Thank you very much, Mr. Gomez. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of this project? In favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve the zone change and follow staff recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? We have one against. All right, motion carries, thank you. The next item, public hearing and recommendation of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance map of the city of Laredo by authorizing the issuance of a special use permit for a bar on South 53.1 Lot 5, Block 41, Western Division, located 1110 Lincoln. There were 27 letters sent out. There was no response. Is that correct? No updates?
That's correct, there's no updates.
All right. And the staff supports the special use permit. This is a public hearing. Anybody here to speak in favor? In favor. Anybody here to speak against? Against. All right. What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to close public hearing, support staff's recommendation, approve the special use permit with the 16 conditions as stated.
All right. Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. The next item, public hearing, amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning lots 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8, Block 94, Eastern Division. It's located 820 Guadalupe Street from B3 to B4 Highway Commercial. There were 30 letters sent out. Do we have any updates on that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 1 in favor, 2 against.
Okay? And the staff does not support the proposed zone change. All right, this is a public hearing. Anybody wish to speak in favor? In favor, yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Humberto Ramirez, and I own the property on 820 Guadalupe. 820 Guadalupe now houses O'Reilly's Auto Parts and used to house Satellite Dialysis Center. All right, 820 Guadalupe is asking for a B4 zone change because other businesses that require B4 designation have inquired to lease where Satellite Dialysis used to be. All right? The inquiries include a hospice, hospital, a game room, alcohol rehab, nurse convalescence, indoor auction, and used furniture. I hope that you will consider the zone change.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ramirez? Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? In favor. Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I have one question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir.
So, the application, though, it is from Maquinitas, but Mr. Ramirez just opened it up to basically a variety of B4 uses. Does that sound correct?
Mr. Ramirez, would you come up, please?
I'm so sorry.
Let me get him up.
All right. Mr. Ramirez, good evening. Just clarification, the application indicates Maquinitas Place,
Yes.
but it's not actually for Maquinitas Place.
No, the first person that inquired, the first business that inquired was the 8 Liners or the game room. Others that have inquired, like I mentioned, hospice, alcohol rehab, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, understood. Staff comments are that it doesn't conform there, but a special use permit for one of those would probably be supported. I just don't know if you do that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
Well, I guess I have a question. What is what is this that surrounds it? Is it just like, just houses, right?
Well, let's ask the staff, what is the analysis around this particular site? Residential, commercial?
It's residential. There's a mechanic shop across Tilden. There's more single family than commercial. And there's two churches.
There's a church, Christ the King, right, catty corner?
Yes, and there's a Iglesia Cristiana across the street, right in front.
Okay. There's some lawyers' offices also there across the street on Guadalupe.
That's correct. And Windows Mobile.
Okay, all right.
I guess my only comment is now that I understand where it is. I mean, that's just an area that I mean, it's part of the city. It's got a lot of potential to be a great part of the city, and I think part of the problem is that there hasn't been a good plan for that part of the city. And so, you know, without really thinking this more clearly as to whether this is something that we would want to use and would enhance this part of the city, I mean, I just don't understand how we could support it. And I think we should go against, I mean, we should not approve the zone change.
All right.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that we close public hearing, correct? And
Yes.
that we support staffs in denying the application?
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Next item that we have is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance map of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 1 acre at a porción 24, Toribio Rodriguez, located at 8217 San Dario Avenue from B3 to B4. The proposed use is a commercial parking lot for trucks, heavy equipment, and is there 4 owners in this area?
4 letters and 0 receipt.
0 repeats, and the staff supports the proposed zone change. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? In favor?
Good evening, Rodolfo Torres. I'm representing the owner, and well, my client here wants to put the trailer parking and heavy equipment on that area. It's almost the same thing as on the south side.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Torres?
Are there
Thank
any schools
you.
nearby? Are there any schools nearby?
No. We're fronting I-35.
No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
No more questions.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing and support staff recommendation for the zone change.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 9.3453 acres out of Porción 19. This is located at approximately 1,400 linear feet south of Vaquero Boulevard and east of Bernadette Lane from AG to R1B, Single Family High Density District. The proposed use is residential. There was 2 letters sent out, and the staff supports the proposed zone change. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Wayne Nance, Porras Engineering. We agree with staff. This is exactly what's all around the area, and we think it would be a good fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor. Anybody who wishes to speak against? Against. If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Move that we close the public hearing and approve the zone change.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any of those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance map by rezoning approximately 22.9882 acres. This is the Jose Antonio Legnarizo original grant. This is located approximately 1,500 linear feet south of Don Camilo Boulevard and west of US Highway 83 from AG to R1A. The proposed use is residential, and there was 49 letters sent out. Was there any updates?
Yes, we received 1 in favor, 0 against.
1 in favor, 0 against. The staff does not support the proposed zone change. All right, this is a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, Wayne Nance, Porter's Engineering. We're in favor of this item. Immediately to the north is College Heights subdivision, which is a R1A. We think that this is a very good fit. We have been in this situation before. Staff, I believe, is obligated to go against this because it goes against it points it out right here, the comprehensive plan, which indicates that this should go on being agriculture, which that doesn't make any sense. It's probably time to update that. But with that said, I mean, we've already brought a master plan in front of this commission that was approved for residential use, plats, et cetera. We hope that you'll agree with us on this one, that an R1A is an appropriate zoning for this subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor. Anybody who wishes to speak against? Against. All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing and go against staff recommendation and approve the item.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. The next item that we have is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance in the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 2.47 acres out of the JBS Concord. This is a 74-acre tract, and it is located at 3116 south of Cage Avenue and east of Concord Hills Boulevard from R1A to R2 multifamily residential district. The site is currently raw and developed land, and the staff does not support the proposed zone change. This is a public hearing. Anybody wish to speak in favor? Yes, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Edward Garza here on behalf of the developer. We're asking for an R2 zone. We understand staff not supporting it, but I'd like to just give you a little brief history about this property, just to give you some background. I was the original engineer of Concord Hills back in 1997. And when we did the original master plan for this location, there was a very substantial amount of topo in this property at this location that really was not conducive for anything other than multifamily or another type of use. Our original master plan from 97 indicated the site as a school site. At that time, we started the development, and as we were working with UISD, the UISD officials decided for another location. So in 2000, we changed the master plan for our multifamily use. And it's been at that use on the master plan since then. When the developer approached me for this particular project, we started the planning process, and the previous owner to the current owner had purchased the land, was trying to do a commercial development several years back, and that's where we have a B1 zone along that front along Concord Hills Boulevard. That particular owner tried a commercial development fronting Concord Hills Boulevard, and it was not successful. This land suffers from a tremendous amount of topo issues with it. There's about a 15-foot drop along the southern boundary of it. And so even though we have developed these lots for multifamily use, the actual lot area we're gonna lose about 30% of land area on these lots, because it's just not conducive for that land to be used for multifamily. As a matter of fact, that land in the plat, which we've already gone through preliminary with you, reserves that as a drainage easement, and we also have a utility easement in the back as well. And so that land, and anybody that intends to develop it, if they try to, is going to go through a lot of serious problems trying to even develop that back portion. So what I'm saying to you is, I'm saying that the density of these lots will not really be able to achieve what's considered maybe a high density. It'll be more into the medium-sized density. The issue with this particular project was that since the developer himself is not going to be developing the development but selling the lots, he didn't really authorize us to develop a site plan for this project. And I think that was one of the issues that staff had with the developer, was trying to get more information about how can all this work. So I actually, and also to add, this particular property fronts along two collectors. I know staff has made some comments regarding the traffic situation out there. Concord Hills Boulevard is an 80-foot major collector right-of-way that runs along the west. And along the north, we have Gage Avenue, which is a 60-foot local collector. And these collectors were put in for that purpose, to provide adequate circulation and provide for additional traffic circulation in that area. When it comes to water and sewer, this particular area was master planned back in the mid-90s. And this particular piece of property, which is about almost 4 acres, was also master planned in the water and sewer arena for multifamily, high-density use. So all the utilities, all the storm drainage systems, all the streets, everything is in place to support this type of use. The issue right now, I think, to try to demonstrate that this is the best zone for it, is that, the developer is not going to be actually the person constructing the apartments or the multifamily uses. He's going to be merely looking to sell as a developer. And so I took the liberty of doing a hand sketch to hopefully try to demonstrate what it could look like, and I hope you will not laugh too hard. And so, looking at just standard of scale, this is what it could look like in concept. It all begins with shared access drives off public streets, number one. Each lot cannot have its own driveway. That's depicted in green. So each lot has to have a shared driveway. Then you have the long side of these property lines where you would place a building. The back side of this area here is that drainage easement. It's 42 feet wide. You can't build anything on it because you're going to spend all your money in a retaining wall system that's not going to work. And so the best approach here is going to be some form of each lot can produce maybe 8 to 12 units tops. Because the land area, we're losing 30% on each lot. And so you still have to meet parking requirements and et cetera. The good news is that we have enough infrastructure in place in public right-of-ways as we speak that can support this use. And so there wouldn't be a burden on that. And so hopefully we can convince you that the zone is appropriate. We think R2 is appropriate in this case because we have R1A to the south, R1A to the east. There's a B1 that was zoned years and years ago, but an R2 we think kind of works best with the R1A and provides a good buffer between R1A and the B1, and that's the reason why we're asking for an R2 in this case. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Yes, sir. I do. Eddie, what about the traffic concern because of these collector roads? You brought it up, so I'm looking at it.
The good news here is that when vehicles exit, they'll be exiting onto major collector or local collector streets. They will not be impacting any local streets that serve single family. And that's what you want in development of this type of use. You want your vehicles to be accessing in collectors that can handle and have the capacity for larger vehicles or for more vehicle counts.
This isn't a speed or turning lane concern?
No, in this area, we have, the right-of-ways provide for adequate sight distance. There's stop signs at the intersection here at Gage and Concord Hills Boulevard, so that provides the stopping requirements that would be needed to regulate traffic flow. So you have adequate right-of-way, you have adequate street width, you have good visibility to allow all that to work together.
I guess, let me ask you this. Are there any traffic counts in this area at this point?
That's a good question. I haven't looked recently. Okay. I can follow up on that and check.
It's just...
Because most of them come really from the highway system.
Yeah, it was just a follow-up to Commissioner Reckelheimer's question, but okay. It is a collector, so it's got adequate right-of-ways.
Now, the good news also, I guess I can add, is that Gage Avenue recently was improved to the east and ties into Southern Development. Southern Development is another project that we've engineered recently. And so there's an interconnection between roadways now that provides all other forms of access in different directions to alleviate some of those traffic issues. Okay. Which means people that will be exiting off of Gage Avenue will not have to always go to the west toward Concord Hills Boulevard. they will be able to go east also and drive on 60-foot right-of-ways and 70-foot right-of-ways all the way to Highway 359. But we are promoting the movement toward Concord where you have a traffic signal at 359 to provide better control of traffic movements. But we also are currently working on accessing, we're trying to acquire a piece of property through the Southern Development Project to connect to Las Misiones also, to continue this form of access, integrating in between the developments, so we can get people to travel and drive on streets that have traffic signals already on the highway system. That will improve traffic circulation and traffic safety.
Makes sense. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I have a question for Tom. Can you explain to us a little bit why you're not recommending this?
Yeah, this was challenging. We spent a lot of time on this. This is another one of those situations where our zoning categories don't align so well for us to make good applications of them. The R2 zone will allow both, medium density multifamily, so envision duplexes or quadplexes, townhomes. And it also allows apartments, garden-style apartments. So in the middle of this neighborhood, which is all single-family, that would be, I think, a significant change from what the expectation there is in the neighborhood. And although what was presented shows the site to the west, that is zone B1 right now. So I guess you were showing that as if you had rezoned that as well to R2 and it was all one cohesive street, so that you were putting that traffic on Concord Hills. So we want to be sensitive to that. While this is a great opportunity for infill, and we reached out to the applicant more than once to try to ascertain what's your plan for this. And what we heard is, we don't have a plan yet. And can you rule out either you're going to do garden style apartment? No, we can't rule that out. So that makes us nervous, because in a neighborhood like this, we know from experience, and you do as a planning commission, that so often when you see something like this in the middle, if we're on the edge of the subdivision, maybe that would be different. But in the middle of a single family neighborhood, you know how residents feel about that, and how citizens feel about that. And we also know that for infill development, it has to work for the developer. The single family residential, for the price they'd buy the lot or sell it, probably wouldn't work this lot to do single family, or maybe that's why it's vacant, because of the challenges it has with topography and the cost of developing.
Yeah.
So there has to be a little higher density. It's just we're concerned about that going to high density, and that not be and that's not in the comprehensive plan.
And my follow-up question, what options does the developer have at this point so that we can have our concerns be resolved of not having those apartments, but they're being able to either sell that land or develop that land?
Yeah, Ali, we recently did this with, what was the zoning category where they had, I don't like that this is the process, but that they use a special use permit to get townhomes, to do a townhome development.
Oh, for Hilltop?
Yeah.
The townhomes.
And what was the zone that they got?
It was R2, and they needed an SUP.
Oh, to do townhomes, that's right. But where else is townhome permitted? What zones where they can get a?
Where is allowed?
Yeah, we're medium density residential, that they could do something like they're envisioning condos or townhomes like you showed.
Well, in an R2, in this particular case, they can do medium density if they go by the townhomes or the quadruplex.
But is that in R2 only?
I'm sorry?
What's the zone for that?
It's R2 or R3.
R2 or R3. So there's
But
nothing less. There's
R3,
nothing less than
remember,
R2.
it's higher
Yeah.
designation than R2.
So it goes from R1A to R2?
In this case, yes.
No, just what's the?
So we don't have a multifamily, a medium density.
No,
in
we
the
don't
zone.
have any designation
So
specifically for
that creates a challenge for us.
other than R2.
In a situation like this, when you have a neighborhood that's all single family detached, and right in the middle you've got. So are we strongly opposed to this? No, but we're very sensitive that the neighborhood, it's going to create, it will likely create some challenges there with surrounding neighbors.
Commissioner Dominguez?
I'll be very brief, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I think it's a very good idea to allow the R2 there. We're assuming that they will be 8, 10, but I know the terrain in that area, and that's going to limit the construction. Now, that particular area has been undeveloped for a long, long time. And I think it will bring, not only beautify the area, but also it will provide some type of a good housing for some of the members of the community. So I strongly believe that R2 is good. I think we should go ahead and move. As a matter of fact, I will make a motion when.
Well, we're still in public hearing at this point, okay? All right, let me recognize Commissioner.
No, my comment was similar to what he mentioned. I know the area is in, I mean, most of Laredo, and not this area, is in need of housing, affordable housing. Apartments would be somewhat affordable for some people. I guess, yeah, you have to examine all angles, right, what impact it would have on traffic, and right. But I think the roads are adequately constructed to sustain the traffic. How many apartments can you place in, what is it, 2 acres, 2.5 acres?
2.5 net, with 3.74.
So how many apartments, we're talking about 40, 50?
About 48.
On a good day, maybe 45, yeah.
48,
48
max.
Right.
48 max.
Right.
So, I just think it makes sense.
I think we just have to follow the principles of the comp plan.
All right, gentlemen, this is a public hearing. Any other questions for Mr. Garza?
One more. Mr. Garza, so the simple concern is, townhomes, that's great. Apartments, not so great because of the number of vehicles. Is that not correct, what you were saying?
That going to a higher density,
Right.
there are typically some challenges, some issues that it creates when it's abrupt, when it's directly adjacent to single-family residential.
Because that's right. Right, but it's R1 or R1A immediately surrounding it. Now it would go to high density if it were to do that. It would be-
R2, which permits both medium and high-density residential.
Okay, but we don't know what the developer wants to do?
Well, all I know from my involvement is that he wanted a subdivision that he can sell lots for multifamily use. That was his goal in the beginning. But I also knew he was not going to actually be the person constructing it.
Understood.
So, when looking at this property, we were looking at what's net usable, because there's a lot of land we're losing because of the topography. So, based on that, I know that it's going to be highly difficult for anyone to achieve a high-density development there, because there's parking requirements and all these requirements that are required in design. So, these lots are averaging like 16,000 square feet, but we're losing over 4,000 to that embankment. So it leaves very small amount of land to be able to put enough high-density type units.
Right, but if high density is undesirable because it's surrounded by.
I think at the end of the day, when you do the math, I think we'll probably average a medium-density type of development when we do the math on this project, taking into account all the land areas and the issues that we're dealing with on that property to make it work.
Okay.
Now, I've done, just for the record, I did a townhome project about 15, 18 years ago on Shiloh, and we did a 3-acre tract. And we were able to put about 64 units in a townhome project there on 3 acres. So we exceeded 20 units per acre right on Shiloh. And it did require, it was a B3 zone with a special use permit. And that dates back about 18 years. And so if we were to even consider a townhome project in this case, we would probably increase the density, number one. Number two, it'd be a massive undertaking of retaining walls and earth movement activity that would probably create more havoc than good in the long run. Here, if we go forward in this approach, we will at least have more vegetation, more native soil in its native state, which can be somewhat conducive to trying to blend this use with the single family. And if it's any other consolation, this master plan of multifamily dates back to 2000. So anybody that's purchased a lot or a home in that area has known about this since then.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Garza. This is a public hearing. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? In favor? Anybody wish to speak against? Against? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll move to make, go against staff recommendation and approve the request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Let me show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh. All right,
I'm abstaining, so.
Huh?
He's abstaining.
All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, those against? 1, 2, 3.
I abstain.
And there was one abstention. Motion carries. The next item that we have is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by authorizing the issuance of special use permit for a restaurant serving alcohol on Lot 6A, Block 1, Vista Hermosa subdivision, Unit 3, located at 5511 McPherson Road. The site is currently occupied by Casa Mexico Restaurant, and the staff does not support the issuance of a special use permit at this location. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change, in favor?
We have an update, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We sent 31 letters. We received 1 in favor, 0 against.
1 in favor and 2 against.
0 against.
Oh, 0 against, I'm sorry. Yes, those who wish to speak in favor, yes.
Buenas tardes. ¿Puedo hablar en español?
Sí.
Soy la dueña del restaurante Casa México y vengo aquí a pedir un permiso para poder vender alcohol en el restaurante.
Okay. Anybody has questions?
I have a question. El tipo de negocio que tienen ustedes, ma'am, es restaurante, no es bar, no es...
Es puro
restaurante.
100% familiar. Sí.
Y la razón que lo está pidiendo es porque se lo piden.
Estamos perdiendo muchos clientes. Llegan grupos de 15 o 20 personas y ¿venden alcohol? No. Bueno, gracias y se van.
¿Y son personas que llegan a celebrar? O...
Sí, a celebrar cumpleaños. Nos piden cerveza, sí.
Gracias.
That's it. Okay. Any other questions? Gracias por su comentario. Okay. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? And we do have Silvia Cosio.
Okay. Ya anteriormente, cuando estuvieron poniendo restaurant bars,
¿Su nombre, no?
a Silvia Cosío. Okay. Estuvimos teniendo muchos problemas. Se le entregaron 196 firmas para estar en contra y para que nos quitaran todo ese problema que teníamos, porque aventaban los condones en las escuelas, botellas, cervezas, en los driveways de nosotros iban y tenían sexo y quebraban ventanas, aventaban balazos, todo, ¿ok? Y empezaban siempre pidiendo permiso al restaurant bar, ¿ok? Entonces ahora está de vuelta pidiendo permiso para un restaurant bar. Así empiezan y empezamos de vuelta con los problemas. Pidieron firmas, ¿ok? ¿Sí lo pueden ver aquí? Ok. Entonces, nada más lo que están pidiendo es de esta sección aquí. Aquí traigo las firmas de todas que están en contra y que nadie quiere que se venda alcohol ahí. No queremos pasar de vuelta por lo mismo porque empiezan con eso y está la música hasta las 2 de la mañana y toda la gente tomada se para enfrente de nuestras casas, en los driveways, y avientan botellas de cerveza, vasos de vino, hasta ropa interior. Yo traje anteriormente, le entregué, no sé si Ms. Sánchez, ¿quién es la persona que estaba encargada antes?
Susana Ramos.
Ok, pero hablé con Ms. Sánchez, entregué 196 firmas para quitar este problema, incluyendo hasta la escuela Newman de UISD, quitarnos todo ese problema y fotos, o sea, y periódico, lo que salió en el Times, fotografías de la ropa interior que tiraban ahí, de los condones, de las drogas, de esas, ¿cómo se llama? Inyecciones, ¿cómo esas? Que tiraban en los driveway y también dentro de la escuela que la aventaban. De los balazos que estuvieron haciendo, de las casas, fotos de las casas donde estaban los balazos en las paredes. Por atrás de las casas, de todas estas casas que están aquí, aventaban botellas. Una persona salió dañada su cabeza, se abrió su cabeza porque aventaban las botellas, estaban haciendo carne asada o estaban arreglando el jardín y pasaba todo eso. Entonces, era mucho problema, mucho peligro. Y también el otro peligro más grande que hay...
Déjeme preguntarle una pregunta. Lo que nos está ahorita diciendo usted, ¿eso sucedió cuando era el Left Bar, ¿verdad? El que estaba ahí.
Sí, pero era restaurant bar.
Bueno, y desde que se cerró ese negocio, y no me acuerdo cuánto tiempo tiene, pero se cerró, ¿verdad?
Sí, todo ha estado tranquilo.
Entonces ha estado tranquilo.
Todo.
Pero ha estado el restaurante ese ahí por un tiempo. ¿Y los demás? No, no han tenido
No
nada
hay
de
nada,
problemas.
ya no hay nada de...
¿O está todo vacante?
Todo está, no, ya son otros negocios, pero todo está muy bien, ¿ok? Pero quiero también hacer el comentario de que esta señora que acaba de hablar aquí ahorita fue para mi casa porque yo soy la que representó la colonia, la que me encargo de levantar las firmas. Y me dijo, pídame lo que usted quiera, dígame qué es lo que quiere usted y podemos arreglar todo esto. Inclusive me dijo que fuera a comer gratis en su restaurante, pero nosotros no queremos nada de eso, ¿ok? Es como, te voy a dar esto para que aceptes esto, ¿sí me entiende? Así no jala aquí. Nosotros queremos tranquilidad, necesitamos tener paz, mucho sacrificio para nuestras casas, pagamos nuestros impuestos y tenemos a tener derecho a tener paz. Lo más peligroso que pasó ahí fue de que los condones que tiraban en la escuela, niños estuvieron agarrándolos como si fueran balones, estaban soplando, ¿ok? Y se les llamó y le llamó a la policía de USD, se hizo todo, se dieron todos los reportes y por favor no queremos que se venda alcohol. Aquí en los papeles que mandaron ustedes están firmados y están las razones por las que no queremos que se haga esto. Entonces esperamos de que nos respalden en esto y que ya no se vuelva a repetir porque anteriormente ya había venido esta señora a hablar de esto y lo peleamos y a la regidora estuvo a favor de nosotros y le negó el permiso. Ahora viene de vuelta a hacer esto, entonces mandan de vuelta estos documentos y aquí están todos los papeles donde no queremos, no aceptamos. ¿Ok? Tenemos todo el derecho como pagadores de impuestos y tenemos derecho a tranquilidad.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Por sus comentarios.
¿A quién le entrego, Mr. Villarreal, esto?
Alejandra. We have a question for staff. In reading the communication, there seems to be two recommendations. One does not support and one that does support. There's a little confusion there. Can you all tell me what's up, what's down?
There was an update, Mr. Chairman, for that communication.
I'm sorry.
Staff is not supporting. The place holds a current SUP for a restaurant for La Pesca Fresca that closed, and therefore, when another business comes, they need to acquire a new SUP, which is what the property owner is doing. He's amending that ordinance, and they change the site plan and the business. The reason we're not supporting is because it doesn't comply with the parking, the minimum parking requirement. This initially, for that current SUP, staff also denied because of the parking. It's the same location, same parking spaces, has not changed.
But we've always, this is like the fourth time in the time that me and Mr. Villarreal have been on this commission, this is like the fourth time this type of CUP's come up, and it's because this building was allowed to be built with not enough parking in the first place, and it's always going to be have problems with the parking, and so I get what staff is saying because of the parking, but there is no use that it can be done. There's no use for it with the number of parking that's there. I mean, there isn't.
Every use is what determines the parking requirement.
Yes, it was built by
So-
Mr. Favarato, who's always had
That's
restaurants, and for the reason that it was always built to be a restaurant. It's never been anything else other than, I think, next door, they got a CUP for a maquinita place, even though they didn't have enough parking. But it's always, this is the same CUP that's come forward a lot.
Yeah.
Correct. There's been several requests from Mr. Favarato for that same location.
Okay. Commissioner Dominguez.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I noticed that on the application, actually, the application is for a special use permit for a restaurant serving alcohol, not a restaurant bar. Now, I sympathize with the residents in that area because at one particular time there was a big problem in that area because of the bars and the excess of drinking outside and the people and everything. Now, this particular restaurant has been there for almost a year now, and like she mentioned, there has not been any problems. Now, we have allowed restaurants to serve alcohol in previous instances. As a matter of fact, we're trying to attract the investment in the restaurants into the area. One of them was the Daddy Wings that also was surrounded by residential, but they needed to serve alcohol with the food. I mean, you go into a restaurant, you want beer, you want, and it's a complement of the, it's different than going to a bar and partying and having beer and liquor all the time. On this particular instance, being a restaurant, I think it complements being able to sell alcohol, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
We have done it with Cabo de Hacha, which is in the same situation as this area. We have residential in the back, and also along Del Mar, there's almost 5 restaurants that are restaurant at bar, and they serve alcohol, see? Now, if it's gonna be a restaurant selling food and serving alcohol, I sympathize with the applicant. I think that we should allow for her to sell alcohol. Why? Because we have allowed it before. Not allowing this lady to get the permit, then we're discriminating on an assumption that allowing alcohol in that area is gonna create a problem. If we allow the alcohol and it creates a problem, I mean, TABC will close them down.
Yeah.
They will close them down. But we need to allow people to have the instance. We had Cabo de Hacha, we allowed them, they did good, they almost doubled their businesses, and no complaints in that area. See, that's what I wanted to mention.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what can we do to protect the residents from their concern? I mean, I think the 13 parking lot difference is, I mean, to me, that's negligible. I mean, I don't think that's an important thing. Maybe it is, but it doesn't seem like it's that huge of a deal. The question is that I'm more concerned about is, if we do proceed with the project, allowing them to pursue the project with the alcohol, selling of the alcohol, what can we do to protect the residents?
Well, that's the intent of the special use permit. It's not always as effective as we intend it to be, but there are conditions. These conditions can be enforced, and there are 18 conditions here that we've applied. And also there are, if there are issues with parking and people are parking illegally, those are things that can be reported and enforced. So we do have those things in place. If you're asking what can we do above and beyond that, I don't have anything to suggest above and beyond the tools that we have to enforce the rules that we already have.
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner.
I think if anything, I think the hours of operation would be key. I think if it closes at a decent hour to where they're not going past the 12:30, 1 o'clock hour to the 2 o'clock hour, that pretty much keeps it as a restaurant. So I think the hours of operation is going to be key as far as keeping it what it is.
Well, you got right now a special use is from 11 to 11 on Monday through Saturday and Monday through Friday, and 11 to 12 on Saturday?
Weekdays.
Is that right?
Weekdays and Sunday from 11 to 11, and then on Saturdays from
11 to 12?
11 to 12, to midnight.
Okay.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman. The fact that, I guess it's answered here, that to Mr. Dominguez's point, which is excellent, it's not to make it a bar, it's to make it a restaurant that serves alcohol. That's binding? Restaurant serving alcohol, not a bar.
The rules that are in the
Yeah.
conditions that are set with this are binding.
Okay, and does the applicant, is she aware, Mr. Chairman, of these conditions?
Yes, so you're
Yes,
looking at
it is.
the,
They are aware.
Oh, all right, so this is the,
yeah,
it's do not support, but if we support it with these conditions?
that's exactly
Oh, very
right.
good.
That's what it is, okay?
Thank you.
Commissioner
Make
Tiggs?
a motion.
No, I have one follow-up question. What about the thing that we did, and I'm please forgive me, I'm not as familiar with the rules as you guys are. What about the thing that we did with the other place downtown, the one that we had 2 weeks ago where it had to be ancillary to the business, the sale of alcohol had to be ancillary to the business. If it became the primary purpose of the business, then they would no longer be in conformance or something like that. Is there something like that we could do
It's the
here?
same thing.
The same
TABC
thing?
controls rules on restaurants.
51%.
51% has to be food. TABC will shut you down.
Can you explain that to the lady?
Well, sure, they can take care of
Yes, we
it.
did explain,
Okay?
it's one of
All
the
right.
conditions on this.
All right.
And as well, I'll just remind the commission that you do have the ability to apply conditions beyond what staff has recommended. So if there's something you're thinking and your commissioners agree.
I just think if it's if it's right by the neighborhood, like why 11 o'clock, why not 10, during the weekday? I mean, 10 o'clock is 10 o'clock. I mean, I'm asleep by 9:45.
So 11 o'clock is 11 o'clock.
That's
So,
sad,
okay.
sir.
All right, anybody else who wishes to speak against? All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to close public hearing, go against staff's recommendation, approve the special use permit with the 18 conditions.
I'll second that
A
motion.
motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those against? Motion carries. The next item that we have is preliminary consideration of Lago del Valle right-of-way dedication plan. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comment from planning, from water and utilities, and a notice to developer from planning.
Chairman, if I may, there is some correspondence before you from the engineer of record asking that this item be tabled.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I did see that. Thank you. I need a motion to table.
Move that we table item 7A.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item that we have is preliminary consideration of the replat of Lot 29, Block 1, San Isidro Southwest. Antler Crossing Phase 1 into lots 29A and 29B. Block 1, San Isidro Southwest Antler Crossing Phase 1. And granting of a variance to allow a 0-foot setback, a 5-foot side interior setback, a 5-foot side corner setback, and a 3-foot rear setback to Lot 29B. Block 1, which is to be used for the placement of a subdivision monument sign. The intent is residential. The proposed action is denial. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Ricardo Villarreal, Howland Engineering, good evening. All those setbacks sounded great when you were reading them, but a little off, but I wanted to explain what the intent of this is. So this is in the actual Antler Crossing subdivision, the new one going in the mall site, the old mall site, 110 acres off of southeast corner of I-35 and Loop 20. This is the actual site. The first phase has already been recorded. It's about 90% complete on the ground. And so what happened was that we platted this lot here. I have a blow up here because so I can't remember which one is, what item is it? This is the second item. They're both across the street from each other.
Would it be more prudent to hear item 7B and 7C together as one item, since it's essentially the same thing on two different lots?
Yes, correct.
Can I make a motion
Do it.
to hear item 7B and 7C together as one?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, proceed, please.
So this is one of the lots. This one's on the north side. So we have a recorded lot on there, and so the purpose of this is to construct a monument sign, Antler Crossing, and it's going to look somewhat like this. It hasn't been finalized, but it's about 11 foot wide and about 10 inches thick, the sign, with landscaping around it. So the current ordinance has 5, 5, 5 all around, pretty much around the perimeter of the lot. So a 5-foot setback in the front, 5-foot setback in the back, 5s on the side. According, I confirmed it with Rafael here with planning
And
before the
it's
meeting.
in your backup as well.
Now, the key to this is, and I brought some other, I'm glad Mr. McGee's back there, but I know I brought some more detailed of what's out there. So these two roads, which is Darkhorn Drive going into the subdivision and Springfield, their right-of-ways are bigger than usual. They're 120-foot right-of-ways. Why do I mention that? Because usually on a 65-foot back-to-back road, on the norm it's 100. So you only have 17 feet from the back of curb to where the block wall is of the lots, of the residential lots. In this case, we have 27.5 feet from the back of curb to the block wall. So that gives an extra 10 feet on each side. So the reason we're asking for a variance is if we have a 5-foot setback in the front of this lot, that pushes the lot another 5 feet in the property on that corner, when really we want to utilize the actual corner clip that was platted within this lot. Now that corner clip, which this corner clip is L4, that corner clip is 21 feet wide. Usually when you do signs like this, you pretty much eat in to the right-of-way a little bit more. In this case, we can't eat in, we can't eat in past L6 because it's already recorded. So it's already city right-of-way. We can't go in there and take land off of it. So what we wanted to do is place the sign right on the property line, and it's 10 inches wide, right? We gave ourselves from the property line to the back setback is 5 feet. So we gave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room in there to put it in there, so we can actually put it in at a 1-2 foot setback. But what it creates is this sign's not too far into the property. The site distances on this, I had to shorten it up because the site distances are actually pretty big. If you have a car parked at this intersection and you look north, you have somewhat of a 1,600 linear feet of site distance, which is incredibly large. And on the south side, it's about 1,100. I took a couple of snapshots of the Google Earth card. Now, he's not quite standing right where that car is going to be, but it gives you an idea of if you were at this intersection and you're looking north, you have great amount of sight distance. This next one is looking south, since it's pretty much parallel to the road. So this sign, not only being 27.5 feet back, you still have a lot of sight distance. The other thing is the sidewalks are also offset from the road. These sidewalks here, let's see if I can, these sidewalks here are offset, so you don't have pretty much pedestrians right on the back of curb of this wide road. So this is a first for me. So there's a stipulation in the ordinance where we can ask for a variance from the Planning and Zoning Commission on this. So instead of a 555 all in front, we feel that since the sign is so small, so thin, that we can push the sign up to the front, towards the front of the uninhabitable lot. And I know that was one of the comments, this lot doesn't conform to R1A. We need to put verbiage on here that it's gonna be uninhabitable. Can't live on it, so. I kind of want to get comments from the commission, comments from staff as well. I know they're recommending denial because of the setback requirements in the sign ordinance. When I spoke to staff, this was a way to kind of ask. Mitigate. Instead of doing it, going to Board of Adjustments, it's actually approved at P&Z beforehand.
Okay. Commissioner Meckelheimer? Yes. So the signage setback thing, requirements, that's not new?
It's been, no, sir.
Oh, okay. So would there be a reason why that wouldn't have been taken into consideration when the development was designed?
When we first started development, we accounted for a sign that gets slapped on the wall. So there's two types of signs. One that's freestanding, pretty much, this is freestanding. What you see in Regency, Plantation, Winfield, Kalady Heights, freestanding. The previous developer has put Monaco, he's put a sign against the actual property wall on there, which doesn't require setbacks. It doesn't require it to be on its own lot. Throughout the design process and throughout this, as development started, it's going to be he wanted to make it a little bit nicer subdivision as opposed to just, I'm not going to call it generic, but a more basic sign. So he kind of wanted to make it a little bit more appealing. So we had to create its own lot, and so it doesn't eat into that already platted lot, and it doesn't come into the right-of-way as well. That's why we're asking for a variance to where.
Oh, I understand. I just want to understand why wasn't it accounted for in the original design? Because if you designed it, you think, oh, I'll just come for a variance later on, and let's make the commission help me out on this. So.
Yeah, this happened throughout the design, where the design of the actual sign changed from a can't remember what the term is, slapping on the
I
wall.
understand, though.
Subdivision identity sign is what that's called.
Okay,
Yes.
so then the other question is, did you all propose some solutions and those were deemed inadequate? Can you all comment?
Or actually, we did not have a full-blown conversation on this item with the engineer. We did not.
So the only solution here, other than a variance, is the lot identification, what'd you call it?
Subdivision identity sign,
Subdivision identity sign.
which is the one.
Well, the
where
other
it's
alternative
added on.
is replatting and changing the size of lots 29 and 118, right?
Yes.
That would be one option. Another option would be to provide an easement on the property. There doesn't have to be, there's nothing in the sign ordinance requirement, there's nothing in the sign ordinance that requires a monument sign to be on its own lot. So they could have the sign on these corner lots and an easement so that that sign could stay there, rather than having a piece of property that is owned by the development or the HOA and meant to be maintained long-term but may not be, as we've seen in some of our other subdivisions.
But your point is because there's a larger right-of-way, even though the road doesn't use up all the right-of-way, it's a larger than regular right-of-way.
Yeah, so our corner clips are wide. They're wide corner clips. And so when we put that sign on there, you still have a lot more on that line. So if we were to make this lot bigger, we're in essence putting the sign deeper into that lot. And it kind of makes it inefficient. The lot would be too large for what the actual sign actually is. Even though we're still calling for the 5-foot setbacks on both sides, it's just one of those where the sign, we would want it right on the corner clip. Now, we do have 6-7 feet behind the sign to put your electrical irrigation boxes, so on and so forth. And that's why we didn't kind of show it in the middle. Now, there is still a chance that we move it back a foot or two, so there might be some setback because you kind of sometimes don't want it right on the property line in case there's a property dispute with, in this case, the city, because it would be right away. But when we looked at all this, and I did speak to the right-of-way agent with the city of Laredo, I spoke to him. If he had any problem, he's the one that pointed me to the actual, I guess, the formula that he looks at when he approves something like this. Sight distance, how wide are the right-of-ways? Do I have enough room for this? Are you going to put anything in there that's going to be higher than 30 inches?
Let me ask you a quick question. What is the distance between the Beckett curve and the monument sign?
Of where it's going to be placed. So if, let me see, I kind of lost it here. Okay, so from this point, let's just say from this point to this point here, is 27.5 feet.
Okay.
The monument sign is going to be at an angle, so the first corner of the monument sign is 27.5 feet.
A lot of space.
All right, okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much.
I do want to make a quick thing. I know it's mainly for the logistical part of it. For the variance to go through, I do think it's 2/3 vote.
That is correct.
From the commission. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion?
May I, as staff, just reiterate, if all of you had a chance to read through, we included section 2-3-7 on variances that allows the commission. I just want to make sure that you all have reviewed this, to be careful, because this doesn't come up often where you're granting variances. And the ordinance is very specific on when you can grant an ordinance. And as staff, we don't concur that this is one of those instances. Of course, as planning commission, you don't always have to listen to staff, but the intent of a variance is there's something unique about the lot that they did not create, a hardship they did not create. And they created this hardship when they platted it the way that they platted it. So there's not a unique characteristic there that's not allowing them to reasonably use their property. Now, the reason that we need to be careful when we grant variances is because you're setting an expectation for others that will come to you and say, we kind of messed up, let's just ask for a variance. So that's what I'm cautioning you to do, is to be careful, and I would just suggest that you read through that to make sure this is what you want to do. You're following the rules here for when we can grant a variance.
All right.
But it also has.
All right, we have two different items, 7B and 7C. So what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to Go against staff's recommendation and approve the action.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Signify. All those against? All right, there's one against. Motion carries. Item 7D, this is preliminary consideration of replat of Lot 3A, Block 1, Laurie Farm subdivision, Unit 1, into Lot 5A and 6A, Block 1, Laurie Farm subdivision. The intent is fast food restaurant. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water and utilities, from traffic, and a notice to developer from planning. So what are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve, subject to the following comments. What do you have?
Yeah, okay.
Second.
A motion for second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. The next item is preliminary reconsideration of the plat of San Isidro North East La Paz subdivision. The intent is residential. This item has been placed on the agenda for the reconsideration at the request of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All right, the proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from fire, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, my name is Ramiro Ibarra and I work for Star Engineering, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on this subdivision.
All right. Anybody have any questions for the engineer?
Only merely does he
Are you
concur
okay?
with the comments?
Yeah,
Yes, yes I do.
okay.
Move that we approve item 8B with the attached comments.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Next item is preliminary reconsideration of the plat of Embarcadero subdivision, phase 12. The intent is commercial. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from fire, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Arturo Camacho with Camacho and Associates. We concur with most of the comments. We do have a request on the traffic safety. We wanted to request to see if Lot 6 could be removed from the comments. I had a brief conversation with the Traffic Department Director about Lot 6. It has a long frontage along IH-35, and we were wondering if that could be removed so that the access to IH-35 from that lot could be coordinated with the Traffic Safety Department and TxDOT at the time of development for that lot.
Okay. Let me call the traffic director up.
Yes, sir.
Traffic director, but he's talking about the traffic safety comments.
Is this 9A?
No, you're on the wrong one. I'm in the wrong one?
It's 8B.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Okay.
In discussions with Mr.
Yes.
Camacho, sorry, this is an area where we have a deceleration lane coming into that street. It's just further south of where they're talking about putting it up. If it's for purposes of office workers, something small, we can possibly consider that. Ultimately, it's still going to come down to TxDOT, wanting development there. There's a lot of trucks that are stacking up on that area. However, there are new projects that you may be aware of, like direct connectors, so that they might not be so much of an issue in the future. So we can at least try and see if we can accommodate it, not promising anything, but we can look at it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
How do we take into consideration those comments?
Make a motion to
Well,
approve
I think-
subject to the following comments with the exception of traffic and safety comment.
For Lot 6.
To striking Lot 6.
Lot 6, yeah.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. The next item that we have is Eden subdivision, Unit 16. And this is a consideration of the model subdivision rule compliance with the plat of Eden, subdivision, Unit 16. And the action is to approve. Do we have a motion? So motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item is the presentation of the recording Laredo.
Commission members, given the time tonight, what I would like to propose is that we table this for the special meeting we're going to have on October 30th, because I want your full attention. And I'm more likely to get that if we haven't had a long meeting already. And on that meeting, I believe we don't have any zoning items for the next planning commission meeting on October 30. And we just have 7 items that have been submitted, some plats. So we should get that done relatively quick, and then I would like to spend 20, 30 minutes with y'all, or more, depending on the discussion you would like to have.
That'll work.
All right,
All right, thank you.
Move that we table item 10? Or just a presentation?
I think he tabled it.
He just tabled it. Yeah, go ahead, make a motion.
Yeah, well, I move that we table item.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item we
If you
have.
would have told me, I would have kept going. I said, no, Kirby, we want it now. I would have done it.
So do we get to table your director's comments?
We have the election of officers.
Denial.
Is the next item that we have. So, obviously, we need to elect a chairman, so anybody who wishes to, you know.
I make a motion to nominate Erasmo Villarreal.
Second.
Motion.
Wait.
Hey, you're not voting yet, Jordan. Second.
All right, there's a motion been made. Anybody else?
It costs money.
No?
Is it second?
I did it.
All right, nobody else? No other? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we have the vice chair.
Make a motion to continue with Commissioner Reyes.
Second.
Motion to second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries, thank you. The next thing is director's comments, anything?
Thank you all very much for the volunteering, that you volunteer as a part of this commission. We really appreciate your service.
Thank you. All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you all very much.
I'm sorry, Kirby, I wasn't trying to, I was just picking on you because you went up to, for the recode.
Oh, yeah.